and welcome to Generation Nexx with me, Rhyesha Joseph. In studio today, we have Mr. Dellan Morgan, the Vice President of the newly formed British Overseas Territories Students Association here on campus. Welcome to our program, Dellan.
Thank you.
Could you tell our audience a little about yourself?
Okay, my name's Dellan. Basically born in London of Bayesian descent, so raised in London, went to school in London, currently came here study integration studies at the master's level at UWI Cave Hill, and yeah, I'm here now, so
okay.
That's all right.
So off of that, you were telling me about your experiences having Bayesian ancestry, but having an experience overseas in London. Why UWI?
UWI, I mean, as coming to Barbados as a little child, I've always came back to Barbados, always identified with Caribbean culture. Had relatives that came here to UWI. I've always seen UWI when I've come back here, and I've always liked the vibe, the culture that it had, and the education system seemed to be at a high level. So I've always wanted to be a part of that and hopefully add to the number of graduates that come through this University of the West Indies. So yeah.
Okay, that is very enlightening because some persons opt to go overseas and have a British experience in terms of schooling. But I'm happy that the University of the West Indies for you represented a reputable institution that had not only an intellectual experience but a cultural one as well, as you mentioned in your...
Yeah, I think it's always important to remember where you've come from and try to at least be part of where you've come from and appreciate your background. So to come here feels like I could contribute back to the Caribbean and be, make a change, positive change for the community. So yeah.
I'm very pleased to hear that. Off of why you're here today, you are serving in the capacity of Vice President of BOTSA, the British Overseas
Student Association. British Overseas Territory Student Association.
Okay. Could you tell me a little bit about the process of forming an organization? What were your motives? Why British Overseas Student Association?
Well, from coming here, I've seen that they have association. So I was figuring out if they have association for, well, me and a few friends. So I had a few friends from BBI, a couple of friends from Anguilla at the time, and we realized that we didn't have an association for us. And what we recognized that these are all British Overseas Territories. So of the British Overseas Territories, we have Cayman Islands, Turks and Caicos, Anguilla, Bermuda, Montserrat, and Anguilla. So, and then of course the UK. So what we did, we thought we just see where it would go in terms of making a group, an association. But we realized that each individual island was too small in terms of numbers to make an association, as the minimum was 30. So what we decided to do is get members from all these islands and come together and make the association. So we had to write a constitution, had to get the members together, had to contact, the president of the guild, etc. So, and that process took, a couple of months, to get done. And then, well, now this semester we've formed the association. So, yeah. Okay,
so having formed the association, what were the thoughts of your members? What do they hope to get out of having an association representing him here on campus?
They just want their voice to be heard. They feel that they want their voice to be heard. I mean, there's something students, and these particular students have never had their voice heard. You have a week for certain other associations where you have a culture day or a food day or a general outing. So these students now have an opportunity to voice their own culture because, these islands all have a culture themselves, an identity. So now they have that opportunity, and hopefully it will go on from years to come, even after I've gone and, so forth. So, yeah.
I'm happy that you mentioned that you realize that other islands and student associations have activities. They have their food days, cultural nights, etc. I know generally persons consider the non-independent Caribbean as excluded sometimes from an identity of being Caribbean, but do you think that there are similarities and differences between members of the non-independent Caribbean and the independent Caribbean?
Yeah, definitely. It's still the Caribbean. It's just the title. It's just the title, really. But the hopes of these islands, which are not yet independent, is to eventually be independent. And coming together, I feel that we can at least discuss ways on how these islands could become independent together. So, yeah, hopefully we could do that.
And what are your thoughts and feelings about Caribbean development as we speak of moving towards independence for the overseas territories? What are the issues that they see vital to their experiences?
Caribbean development, I feel a lot of islands should be more integrated. I mean, the whole point of this was to integrate islands with common identity. So British Overseas Territories, all of these are British Overseas Territories. So, and bring them together instead of being separated. Because I feel they were separated, and we just brought these students together, even though they have probably different kind of ways of culture, but it's still similar. They still have a common identity. So, but Caribbean development, I think everyone needs to pull together as a Caribbean as a whole. I think integration schemes like the OECS is a perfect example of a perfect integration scheme where you can move freely, work in other islands without the need for other documents, such as the CARICOM, which makes it a bit difficult to move around. So, yeah, that's a perfect example of the integration.
Okay. I wanted to know what the experience of your members, those who were impacted by the hurricanes of 2017, what was their experience like, and what kind of support did they get?
Yeah, I spoke to some of them. Some of them didn't have a home. Some of them didn't have a home when, some of them were here and they found out because it was early on in the semester. So some of them were actually here when it went down. So they was talking about their relatives and friends having to move to other countries because of the impact of the hurricane. So their belief was, they did get sufficient help in some ways, but I feel they should have got more help, especially from other Caribbean states and beyond that. So, but their experiences were, some of them were traumatized. It came at an important time when they had exams as well. So, yeah, I talked to them, but it was a good time. But everything's healing now. So, from what I hear, that the countries are coming back and recovering from the hurricane, so they should be okay now.
And with the formulation of an association now that can now, in a unified way, bring forward their concerns and represent them, I think that is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly. That's the main thing. That's the main thing, to get these concerns voiced and bring it at a level like UWI. I think UWI is a perfect institution to get these opinions across, not just in UWI, but to a broader level. So it's just the beginning of something that could be more regional with UWI.
So tell me a little bit more about your UWI experience. I know you mentioned what your motives were for coming, but thus far as a master's student here at the University of the West Indies, what are some important things that stand out to you?
Being at UWI here is it's definitely more challenging than what I studied in the UK. I think it's definitely more challenging, especially at master's level. But it does get you thinking, and the teaching here is very good. I think it's some of the best education I've received was at UWI so far, compared to England. So I'm very happy to be here, but also just developing myself and getting in touch with the Caribbean is definitely an important part of, development. So, yeah.
And you say you're pursuing your master's in
integration studies, yeah, which is one of the, it helped me doing this earlier on, studying it, and figuring out integration studies helped me with forming this group, because I found out that, islands individually is much weaker than together. So by integrating islands and having a common goal could help everyone as a whole. So integration studies was a big part of developing this association.
So I am seeing that your degree is giving back tenfold beyond just having a degree and moving forward for employment. It's helping you to understand your region a little bit more deeply. On the role of the diaspora, because you said you're from London, what do you think their role should be or is currently in pushing the Caribbean forward? Because many times persons grapple with the experience of not living inside of the region physically, but still having a desire to help build it and make it stronger.
Yeah, I mean, in London, London's a place where it's very multicultural. So you still are in touch with your identity as Caribbean or Indian or anyone that's there, because we have a lot of different cultures, and we still have, you know, Caribbean restaurants, etc., Caribbean carnivals. So it's a place where you could, even if you're not in the Caribbean, you could still be in touch with the Caribbean. So it's the perfect place to be brought up outside the Caribbean, just because it has all of that. You still feel that culture, and you still keep in touch with the news and updates of the Caribbean, etc. So, yeah, it was a good, you know, upbringing there.
What has the feedback been like from the rest of the campus to this association being formed?
Yeah, everyone's happy, especially the members that we have. We have over 30 members and some honorary members. So the feedback has been, it's kind of like a historic moment, because at this point there has never been an association like this. So now that it's been done, I mean, this can now go on through other campuses such as Mona or Augustine and help other students from these territories voice their concerns. So, yeah.
That's positive. What are your future hopes for the association as its vice president and seeing it move from strength to strength? What would you hope that BOTSA is able to do at UWI?
We hope that it could develop to be a strong association. Right now we're at the beginning stages, so we still need to sort out events such as food days and etc. and stuff like that. But we hope that we can grow in terms of members, in terms of honorary members, and anyone that has an interest in the organisation or the overseas territories, and hopefully push not just internal but external to other sources, and yeah, just become a voice for the people, basically. Yeah.
And in your process of traveling and going across, what do you believe that you'll be able to take away from this experience, not just of being at UWI, but being the first vice president of the British Overseas Students Association here on campus, 2 persons back in London?
Yeah, something we could definitely work on. I mean, when I go back to London, I also look out for scholarships for Caribbean students in London or England, so that they could come over and study there. So that's a part of my role, to help people from the Caribbean if they want to come study in London, or, you know, there's jobs for Caribbean students in particular, to help them diverse into that, or vice versa, people from London that want to go Caribbean, if there's programs that they feel that they want to try and encourage that. So that's what we'll look to do on external level as well. So, and the BOTSA members are definitely a big part of that. We have our first board of execs. So the president is Sade Piper. We have a welfare officer, Talisha Dixon, PR officer, Destiny Missick. We have the treasurer, Keithney Matthews, and Vanessa Brown, constitutional chairman, and me, vice president. And then we have You
have a PRO?
Yeah, that will be Destiny Missick. And then we have a final one, which, sorry, I'll come back to you, but yeah.
That's all right.
Cool.
And how are persons able to find out more about you? I know you've just started, but are there any social media pages perhaps that persons who are interested in finding out more and participating can plug into, perhaps?
Yeah, right now we just have a Facebook page. That's BOTSA. I mean, that's facebook.com/BOTSA UWI Cave Hill. So that's our Facebook page. We haven't developed any other social media, but that's the main page that we're growing from right now. So, yeah.
Before I bring this interview to a close, and I'm really enjoying this engagement with you, I want to still bring up the topic of identity, because it's so critical for me that you identify as Caribbean, you have Caribbean goals and aspirations, regardless of not physically being born in the Caribbean, but sharing parentage. What are your lasting messages to persons who may feel, well, they probably have misunderstood persons from the British overseas territories, or see them as British citizens as opposed to being Caribbean?
No, I think these people definitely identify with being Caribbean. I mean, it's still based in the Caribbean. Being British overseas territories just means that they're not independent yet. But that is the goal, to be independent for these associations. I mean, these islands. So, yeah, I mean, I think these islands want to be independent just like the rest, and hopefully we can work towards that. I think that would be one of the main goals of the association, to make that happen. So,
How would they make that happen? Do you plan on lobbying back home? How does that take place?
I mean, starting from UWI is always a good place to be. Having your voice heard in UWI would be always a good place to be. But I mean, everyone individually going back home and making the point clear and getting in touch with the right people. I mean, eventually, well, we'll work it out. We try to make it happen. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Dellan, for a very insightful interview and for sharing with us the views of the members of your association. I would like to wish you all the best in your endeavors as you progress from strength to strength and really strengthen the Caribbean region in helping us grow stronger. And I'm sure that the British Overseas Territories would be a welcomed addition to our CARICOM region and beyond.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. You've been watching Generation Nexx with me, Rhyesha Joseph, and in studio we had Mr. Dellan Morgan, the Vice President of BOTSA, newly formed Student Association for British Overseas Territories. Thank you for watching UWI TV.
Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this program. Remember, you can watch this and all our programs on our website, www.uitv.org, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device. Also, join the conversation on social media by visiting our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages.